Good evening and welcome to tonight's session. My name is Adelaide Kaneza and I'm here as a lead trainer at Women in Digital Business. I want us to take a look at model for of adapting the business processes in with me, and I want us to have an interactive session. I'm looking forward to having you all in the class. Feel free to ask any question, feel free to leave a comment, and let's learn together. Now, this is the module 4 of the Women in Digital Business course. This course describes how to manage post-sales activities. This is from collecting payments to delivering goods and discussing the most importance of building online trust. Now, what are the topics we're going to cover tonight? We're going to cover how to receive orders and collecting payments, shipping and delivering goods, digital ethics, trust, and security. Let's get started. Now, how do post-sales activities work in an e-commerce business? Remember, we are talking about digital marketing, and here we are incorporating digital learning strategies in our business. We are digitalizing our business. Now, in this module, we are going to explore what it means to digitalize a business beyond being visible and selling online. Now, indeed, setting up an online process or setting up an online presence and an e-commerce is not sufficient if other key business processes are not digitalized. Now, in particular, we're going to review how you can receive payment, what you need to do to ship your products, and how to have customers trust your online business. Are we together? I want us to move together so that we don't leave you behind. Feel free to talk to me. Feel free to reach out. Feel free to showcase your business. Now, these are among the most critical elements of online trade. And when you're talking about trusting and delivering your product, that is where you establish your trust, your mutual trust between your buyer and your seller. Now, post sell essentially works in this way: you buy your product, you ship, and then you pay. Now, post sales works that way because it allows you to create trust between the buyer, that is the customer, and the seller, who is you. The goal is to have goods going from seller to buyer and the money going in the opposite direction from the buyer to the seller at the same time. The payment service provider may act as a third party intermediary, which makes sure that everything happens correctly. Are we together? After there, let me understand if you are together with me. Now, who is a service, payment service provider? A payment service provider, like we've said before, is an intermediary between a buyer and a seller in an e-commerce. The growth of e-commerce has given rise to multiple payment tools and services, and to a huge infrastructure to enable businesses um, receive, process, transfer, and receive and review the authenticity of payments. Now, any e-commerce transaction has essential actors where we have the buyer, the seller, and the payment provider. Now, like we said before, a payment service provider is the intermediary between the buyer and the seller, and it takes care of the technology behind the transfer of money in exchange for a fee. Typically, this technology is integrated into shopping carts on e-commerce website or other marketplaces. Now, shopping carts are designed to handle multiple payment service providers at once. Now, this means that the seller can sign up with one or more service providers. Now, why? Because it increases the flexibility of accepting more debit and credit cards buyers are used to. for purchasing the goods. Some of the payment service providers, we have PayPal, we have Payoneer, we have Payline, we have Bitcoin. So it depends with whatever company you're going to use. To be able to accept payments, the seller needs to sign up with at least one of the payment services providers. But how can you choose one? Now, here are some of the few questions you need to ask yourself before you choose any payment service provider. Does the country you're operating from use a provider or accept the service provider you're going to use? Now, this is a very critical question to answer because every provider you sign up must agree to work in your country. Otherwise, the business may not be able to withdraw money from it because of the legislations or sanctions preventing this. Make sure that you review the payment service uh, so that you are in a position to withdraw your money. Make sure that you review the payment service provider's website and also consult their sales staff. You will also find another question whereby how are you going to withdraw money from the account? Now, assume you've chosen PayPal as your service provider. How are you going to withdraw your money from PayPal? Some of the money you're going to withdraw in form of checks, but actually checks are often extremely hard and expensive to cash outside the country. And most of the time, you ensure that you're using a wire transfer or SWIFT that is available as an option. Your home country's financial regulator may not allow withdrawal of funds in foreign currency, so check what currency the payment service provider operates with. Now, does the payment service provider help the business in case of fraud or chargebacks? What's a chargeback? Or how does a chargeback happen? Now, a chargeback happens when a customer instructs the bank to do a forced refund. This may occur if a buyer disagrees with a seller following a legitimate complaint that the seller did not solve on time. For instance, a complaint about a fraud. Payment service providers tend to side with the buyers in case of unresolved customer disputes, and the business would face penalties in this case. The process of dispute review must be transparent and fair, and any manual automatic fraud review or protection is a huge plus for the business because it would signal that the business cares about its work, is cautious, and competes or complies with the law. What are the payout frequencies and delays, if any? That's another question you need to ask yourself when you are trying to get a service provider for your business. Often, to cover itself in case of potential refunds or chargebacks, payment gateways freeze a certain percentage of the money and release it after a certain period. For example, after 3 or 6 months. Now, this delay could affect your cash flow situation. So, understanding the payment or the payout frequency is very important. Is the payment gateway integrated on the website platform, or what are you going to do in such a case? Now, shopping cart developers make sure that it is possible to integrate the many payment service providers. So you as a business owner will normally be able to integrate any payment gateway in your website. If you can't, ask the payment gateway support if your website or the platform you're using can integrate the payment gateway. When signing up with payment service providers, the seller needs to go through several steps before they can sell and receive payments online. Now, here are some of the steps. You will need to set up a landing page or a website because most payment service providers require a website to host a shopping cart with a permanent web address. Make sure your website or landing page is up and running. Add properly crafted relevant content to the following sections. The About Us. Now, here we're talking about the parts that are supposed to be handled with care. Here at about Us, you should craft a story about your business, when, why, and how you started, how your products are made, what motivates you. You can also use videos or other tools to tell this story. Now, the goal here is to show why you're different from your competitors, why you're different from the competition, and why customers should buy from you. For example, you can talk about the care you put into your products and the knowledge you have about them, the terms and conditions. Now, this page provides information about what users can expect of you while they are browsing your website, and what they can or can't do. For example, whether they can post content or not. As also, it is best if you choose a template to tweak and write this page or hire a legal professional. The return policy is also another thing you need to consider. The return policy on your landing page or on your website page, you're going to write your business policy on returns and refunds of goods. When you offer them, what conditions this item should be in, and so on. Again, you will realize that it is best if you choose a template and adapt it to your business, or hire a legal profession to handle your website. Here, uh, you also need to consider the privacy policy. Now, the privacy policy outlines what information your website collects about its users. It might be the address, it might be the location, it might be if you use tracking and analytics tools. Here you can use a simple and a very trick and trick it into your business, a simple and a very easily acceptable website. uh, then one thing you have to do about your this word is missing. One thing you need to do about your payment service providers, you need to do due diligence. When setting up a business account, be prepared for due diligence and check on your service providers for business registration paperwork and banking information when requested. You should also note that you need to integrate a shopping cart on your website. Now, if not pre-installed, work with your service provider support team on integrating the shopping cart into the code of the website. Also, make sure that you are establishing a base currency. Here, when we're talking about a base currency, it should either be in dollars, euros, or you can also accept the currency of your country, or you can also input Bitcoin into your base currency. Now, another thing you should also put in mind is that you need to set up a bank account by taking the wire transfer instructions from the bank. The payment service provider will be sending money and to the bank account of the business. So make sure that you're setting up a bank account. You also need to set up tax information for your business purposes, and the payment service provider is required to inform its authorities about the direction of wire transfers to provide the legitimate or legitimacy of the transfers. And lastly, what you also need to do is you have to finish up with the last one configurations and complete the setup of your website. Now, once you're done, or once an order is placed in an e-commerce, the money of the money or the flow of money works as follows. The first thing that happens, the buyer receives an invoice to make a payment. Number two, the buyer transfers the money to a payment. And then when the payment is transferred, what happens next is that the service provider verifies the information, and then the goods are transferred. Now, when the service provider verifies the information, the goods are marked as shipped, then it transfers the money to the seller. Then the goods arrive and they are marked as safely delivered. Buyers don't pay their money directly to the seller. Instead, they pay money by card to the intermediary, which gives the money to the seller at fixed intervals. This might be weekly or monthly. Now, this is to reduce the risk of fraud or non-fulfillment. Are we together? Any question? If there's none, I bet we should continue. Let's look at the simple review process in online transactions. Now, this is getting kind of interesting. I would want you to pay attention. Pay so much attention about this. Now, what is a payment gateway? What is a payment gateway? Now, a payment gateway is a service that is integrated in virtually all payment service providers, and it checks a customer's credit card information. Are we together? We have the purchaser placing an order. The order goes to the vendor who creates an invoice. The, the vendor sends the invoice to the purchaser, and then the purchaser pays the invoice and sends the payment for fraud review. And then we have also the vendor consulting and checking on the sent payment uh, for fraud review. Then, if the if the invoice is approved, a confirmed valid payment is accepted. If the invoice is not approved, it is rejected. The payment is rejected, and then if the payment has been accepted, you confirm the valid payment, then process the payment, fulfill the order, ship the goods, and then the buyer will receive the goods. What happens when the buyer receives the goods? He verifies if the goods are clear, provides feedback, and that is what we call the gateway. The gateway what? The payment gateway. I hope we are together by that. Similarly, the vendor might also add a second check on online transactions. And now here they use their own staff to review manually potential fraud attempts or to scrutinize suspicious transactions. Are we together? Are we together? Now, by default, sellers are not as protected against frauds as buyers. Now, this is part of the reason customer fraud is becoming more prevalent, and some consumers exploit legal and technical loopholes and human weaknesses for illicit gains. Now, to counter this, setting up and running up an internal fraud prevention system is reasonable, and it's a process that may cost extra money, effort, and more training, but it always pays off. Here you will have protected your money. Who doesn't want to protect their money anyway? Now, every business has an obligation to keep itself and other customers safe and crime free. Now, how can you do this? How can you do that? I'll get the answers. Type the answers in the comment section. Now, as you type the answers, we want to look at what happens after customer has ordered and paid. Now, in general, once the order is placed, the marketplace platform or the seller performs the following actions. Uh, they will mark the item as purchased. Now, when you're marking an item as purchased, it means that you're reserving the item uh, as purchased in the system. You reserve it in the system as purchased. Then you create an invoice to confirm the order and send it to the buyer, asking them to pay for it. Number three, you as the seller handles or packs, supplies the documents and everything that is in regards to the order. So you will handle the order and prepare the order for shipping. You will also make sure that the order is shipped through a logistics service provider or a post office, and that the order has been marked as shipped. Now, when the order arrives to the destination and the post office or logistics services marked is as delivered, it means that the order has arrived and it's ready for collection. Therefore, the seller marks the order as fulfilled on the system after collecting. As the seller, you're not supposed to mark um, the order before landing. it means you are committing fraud, and it also means that you are easily susceptible to fraud. Now, handling includes all activities for a business to prepare an item for shipping. For example, if you sell large items such as a wooden sofa, you have to wrap the you have to wrap the sofa, you have to pack it, and then load onto a tracking onto a truck for shipping. Now, to do so, you might have to hire additional workers, even temporarily, which means you also have to incur an extra cost, which will lead to you can indirectly include in the total price or include it directly as an item on the invoice. Now, in that case, you should notify the customer of the expenses in advance so that they so that you may avoid potential conflicts. Now, since you may incur in extra handling and shipping costs, it might be useful to create a shipping and handling policy so that you don't incur extra charges. Now, you need to choose handling costs also. Decide if you're going to increase prices to cover the cost of handling or you're going to keep them the same to attract customers to buy online. You need to contact the post office and logistics service so that you can ask them about the shipping restriction on ground mail or air mail. Now, you also need to ask about the country specific limitations, including whether you're gonna ship beverages and all that. Now you also need to ask about duty, customs, and declaration charges that you should pay if you sell items abroad. Are we together? Now, while you're choosing a shipping provider, you need to make a list of factors to choose between the post office and other logistics services. Now, for logistics services here, I'm talking about FedEx, DHL, Pony Express, and all that. Now, what these factors that you need to choose or you need to consider are the price, the pickup times, places the couriers can deliver, experience in delivering products, and such. Now, you also need to understand the or create shipping policies. Now, these shipping policies are supposed to be on the website. Here, you're supposed to state clearly the shipping cost that the customer or the consumer is going to pay, and then when shipping would be free. You can also review shipping policies of similar online stores to take inspiration. Are we together? Managing returns and exchanges. Now, here you're going to we are going to talk about how to manage returns and exchanges. For example, customers sometimes might have problems with their order, or they can change their mind about the purchase. In this case, they might ask for a refund or an exchange. And in most countries, they are protected by regulations that guarantee their right to return items purchased online. You should verify what the rules in your country are. Once a buyer informs that the once the buyer informs that there's been a problem with the purchase, you as the seller should solve the problem in a few days. For example, if an item went missing and never arrived, you as the seller need to provide additional tracking details or offer a refund. If the buyer received the item but it's faulty, damaged, or doesn't match the listing description, the seller needs to cover the return shipping cost and work with the client to solve the problem. If the customer changes their mind, which of course happens, and if there's no local regulation assuring their return to right or their right to return the item and get a refund, now this you as the seller, how you respond depends on the business return policy. Is that correct? This is why we should understand why trust is important when you're selling online. Okay. Now, trust is very important, and trust and strengthening the brand's credibility is very important for the business to thrive because there's no physical contact between buyers and seller and no physical exchange of money for products or services when selling online. Now, additionally, when buying online, buyers disclose their physical addresses, personal information, and bank details. They also allow the money to change hands once a product is shipped. So, do you think that because customers are not able to see, touch, and feel the products, they need to trust you more? Give us an answer as we go on. Now, sellers must strive to provide as much of the above information that we've been discussing as possible. Now, for you to earn trust of the buyers and not to lose uh, potential customers, you need to make sure that you have given all the information that is required. The information alone is not enough. You need to assure the buyers that they're dealing with a reputable business, a business that will not disappear with their money. You need to make sure that these buyers are they're very comfortable with you. Now, payment providers require that certain amount of valid information is shown, accessible on a company's website and validated. Now, this information includes the legal address, several legal documents, and other mandatory disclosures. Now, the institution that verifies the data provided against the Interpol list and other databases are to ensure that business owners are not known for money laundering, financing terrorism, etc. These checks, as intrusive as they may seem, protect buyers, sellers, and reduce the probability of fraud. In addition, in some industries, regulators oversee and mandate to publish certain information on a corporate website, such as medical diplomas, bar membership for lawyers, etc. LTC. So tired. I don't know why I'm tired. I don't know. Yeah, sure. I don't know why. So, this is where you should research consumer protection legislation, review business practices, and add new restrictions to protect the business and remove excess rules to enhance it together. Remember this. You want to be totally sure that you are complying with law until a legal professional looks at your documents. So it is a good idea to ask them to do that after you develop your documents. Now, this might reduce the price and you'll know that you don't risk any legal action against your business. Remember, you're going to deal with people's money, and so they need to be safe with their money. After that, I believe there's no other question. And if there is, kindly reach out, talk to me. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to talk to lead you through the path. I'm here to walk the journey of digitalizing your business or digital marketing and strategies with you. And up until now, I have been your teacher, Adelaide Kanaiza. See you next time. Same place, same time. Good night.